So you were born, I know you were born in Canada, but recently, did you recently become a U.S. citizen, or what exactly?
A year ago.
Was it a year ago? Okay. Yeah, and so you lived in the States but for a long time.
I did. For some reason, Canadians are the one group of immigrants who don't take out American citizenship, because for many years you couldn't have dual citizenship. And I don't know if anyone here is an immigrant, but to be forced to give up an allegiance or love for the land that you were brought up in is a really difficult and emotional thing. So most of us didn't do that. And then the Canadian government passed a law saying that there was no way you could take away a Canadian citizenship if they were born in Canada. So we were, in spite of U.S. law, allowed to be dual citizens. And then quite a while after that, I finally got around to it.
So officially becoming a dual citizen?
Officially a dual citizen, yes.
That's neat, yeah.
So I get to vote for the first time for president next year. Very exciting.
Yeah, that's great. So now, growing up in Canada, your career began in Canada, didn't it, on television?
It did.
Yeah.
In Canada, there's a lot of government funding for the arts, unlike here. And as a result, certainly in those days, because the population of Canada is quite small, as I'm sure you all know, it was possible almost to learn on the job, because there weren't a lot of commercial concerns. Ivory Soap wasn't going to have to sell its product based on this new young actress. So you could try things and learn things in a way where there wasn't as much monetary pressure on the CBC, which was Canadian Broadcasting, or the National Film Board. And so from about, my first gig was at 15, but started 16, 17. I worked a lot. And then at 18, I read an article in a magazine in Montreal about an agent who handled Canadians, and I was so dumb, and the way you only can be when you're young, that I wrote him a letter going, well, here I am, and better handle me, and I enclosed some reviews I'd gotten. And of course he wrote back and he said, I'm sorry, I have no idea who you are, and besides you live in Montreal, so I can't help you. So instead of going, oh, I guess that's a rejection, again, being 18, I took that as an invitation to fly to LA and meet the guy, so of course you know how great I was. And so I borrowed $400, and I got on a plane and I checked into the tackiest motel on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I remember the guy who took my bags announced that he was an actor, and the guy at the front desk that he was an actor. And I mean, I'm going, what kind of weird town is this? Everybody's really an actor. And I said to the guy who took my bags, when did you last work? And he goes, 15 years ago. And I thought, ooh, that's tough. And this agent, Wilt Milnick, was incredible and met me and got me 2 interviews right away. One with Norman Jewison, who was looking for an ingenue lead in a movie, Gaily Gaily, and one with Antonioni, who was making a movie called Zabriskie Point. This was a long time ago. And I remember on my way to meet Norman Jewison, actually it wasn't, I met him and then they said, we'd like you to stay for a screen test. On my way to the screen test, I had a cab driver who also was an actor. I'm an actor. He said, I've got a tip for you. And he pulled over on Santa Monica Boulevard, and he rushed in and he bought, now in LA there's 2 papers, trade papers that come out every day, the Hollywood Reporter and Daily Variety. And they have all the showbiz news, who's casting what, where it's been shot. So he rushes in and he gets these and he comes back to the cab and he gives them to me because we've been chatting. And he said, you're new here, so here's my tip. You buy both of these every day and you read the obituaries. And if there's a producer you want to see whose wife has died, send flowers and put your name on it. He'll remember you. And that was so sick. That was my first Hollywood tip. So my first couple of weeks in Hollywood, my head was spinning. I thought, whoa, I'm on another planet here. What you're supposed to do is send flowers to people you don't know at funerals in order to get your name in their head. Something's amiss. But at any rate, I got that part, and I was, again, too dumb and too young to know how lucky I was. I just went, oh, well, of course, that's how it's supposed to work.
Was it Zabriskie Point, you said?
No, I didn't get Zabriskie Point. I got Gaily Gaily. that Norman Jewison leaves off his resume because it wasn't very good. But it was really fun with Bo Bridges and Brian Keith and Melina McCrory and Hume Cronin. And I had a glorious time.
Yes, it sounds a risky point. I didn't want to see you.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to Risky Point. That was weird because Antonioni, do you all know who Antonioni is? He was a very far out there Italian director who was enormously popular with the artsy set in the late 60s and early 70s. And he was really odd. And I went into my meeting and he didn't say a word. He just stared at me for 20 minutes. Like this. And I got more uncomfortable, and I'm kind of a chatty Cathy anyway. I'm not exactly what you'd call mysterious. So I just started babbling, which to a cool European was not cool. So I really didn't get that part.
And now in the 70s, early 70s, you worked with was it Brian De Palma?
Mm-hmm.
Was that probably the first big film you were in the States, or?
No, the first big film I was in was Gaily Gaily. It was in those days a big budget thing, but it was a flop.
Oh.
And then my second movie, I did a film with Gene Wilder called Quaxer Fortune Has a Cousin in the Bronx, and my second American movie. And it was about an Irish guy who falls in love with a student at Trinity University. And I had my 21st birthday on that set. And I wasn't very good, and so Gene suggested I go live in New York and take acting lessons. And I observed at the studio and took some classes, and I just couldn't hack it. And quit acting for the first time at 21 and moved back to Vancouver to learn film editing.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And that was around, when was that?
And that was with Bob Altman. That was in 69 or 70 or 70? I guess, something like that. And then I got, what was next after that? A series called Nichols with Jim Garner and Stuart Margolin. And right before I started filming that, I met my still best friend, a girl named Jennifer Salt, who now writes for Nip Tuck, a really ghoulish show. I don't know if any of you have seen it. There's some incredible blood stuff on there. She and I rented a house together on Nicholas Beach, and she had gone to Sarah Lawrence with Brian De Palma, who I guess was the only boy at that point at Sarah Lawrence. A smart move on his part. And Jill Clayburgh was her other best friend, and she brought Brian up to the house, and we fell in love, and I started dating him. And then for Christmas, he came downstairs one Christmas and he said, "Okay, girls, here's your Christmas present," and gave us this script called Sisters, and we each had a part in it. But I think I made a couple more movies before that. Black Christmas, I think.
Christmas.
And, yeah.
I think that was in
When
right
was
around
that?
that same time.
Yeah. There was a whole slew of them around the same
73,
time.
74.
Yeah, which means you
74,
made them in 72, 73.
Okay, yeah. And then
It takes about a year before they come out.
yeah.
After you finish making them.
And then it was just what, probably Superman was 78 or something.
Something like that.
78.
Yeah.
So
It was my birthday. When it
78,
came out.
yeah.
Ah,
So
there you go.
so just a few years later,
Yeah.
and then Superman, and
Well,
of
and
course.
I did the reincarnation of Peter Pratt,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I did the Great Waldo Pepper, and I did Superman was my 9th feature.
9th feature.
Yeah.
So between the time you went back to Canada and did film editing, you studied it, and then came back, and then
I
you know,
came
Brian De
back.
Palma, and that's
Right.
okay. So you really just you thought.
And then
Did you want to get out of acting for a while? Or?
About every second year.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Frustrated or?
It's really tough, you
Yeah,
know.
geez.
You're constantly being judged. You go into auditions and everyone's peering at you and they shout, "What's your weight?" Da, 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 da.
Huh.
And I was ambivalent, and I know it's a cliche, but wanted to direct and wanted to do something else. So I went back and forth a lot. And then before Superman, also, I made a movie called 92 in the Shade.